Um, Welcome everyone. Pleased to say we've got James Blakemore with us today from JMB Partnerships. It's the third in the series of the webinars we're doing for you. And in some ways, for you, I think probably the most important one in terms of your current business ambitions for the UK. We're fortunate to have James and JMB. James has been working in this space, i.e. helping overseas companies to enter new markets for many years and has various testimonies of all the successful clients he has, and definitely the ones that we've spoken to before about James. So he'll introduce himself in a minute. I think he's very well positioned to help companies like yours in particular. So not just B2B, but companies from your sector who are looking to enter the UK to look at developing strategies for developing your sales pipeline as you enter the UK market and looking for, clients and partners who can potentially help you do that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce James to introduce himself and the company. James is going to give you a presentation for around half an hour and then take questions. So as you're listening to James and what he has to say, just if you want to either send in the chat questions to throw at James or put up your hand and ask James throughout the course of the presentation, I'm sure that's fine, given that there's just a few of us today. And then we can wrap up at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand over to James. James.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate that. I'll just set up the shared screen. Be ready to go. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Yep, well, that's good.
Just get to, how do I, yeah, I'll begin it. Brilliant. Okay, so yeah, morning everyone, or afternoon in some cases, evening. Real pleasure to be on this call speaking to you about your exciting plans in the UK. Just want to split the presentation into two different halves, really. One, a little bit of information about us. Why are we able to give some context around selling in the UK market, some of our past experience. Some of it's obviously relevant to other markets as well. A lot of it probably isn't going to be rocket science what I talk about, but are just good practices specifically for the UK market to be able to be successful over here in finding new customers, new partners, new opportunities. A little bit about us. I set up the business. We're a family business some 15 years ago with my father. In that time, we've gone from very humble beginnings to actually ending up at Buckingham Palace, meeting the Queen when she was alive. We won something called the Queen's Award for International Trade, the only lead generation company, as far as we're aware, in the UK to have that honour, which was amazing, and to me to speak to her about our little company was a great achievement. I think we won that through our hard work of working with international businesses. There's obviously lots of lead generation businesses out there, but not so many who are going into market, meeting companies at a fairly early stage who are looking to explore the UK. And because of that experience, we understand some of the pitfalls and some of the hurdles that companies can face when looking at the new market, some of the challenges and differences from their own market to the UK. And that's mean we've built up a solid reputation working with a number of leading government agencies, working on their behalf for companies from those regions, and then working also direct with companies. So all in all, probably in the 15 years, we've worked with over 1,000 international businesses, which has been really interesting across quite a diverse range of sectors. Also with another hat, sort of my experience from selling, I'm a trade champion for Department of Business and Trade here in the UK, basically talking to UK businesses around the opportunities of trading internationally. And it's the same thing with what you guys are doing, obviously trying to trade into the UK, but something we're very passionate about in terms of helping companies to find new markets and opportunities. In terms of the sort of services that we offer, when I set up JMB Partnership 15 years ago, we were very much a telemarketing business, which at the time, in terms of the UK market, was a great way of generating leads, and that would be build a list of 500, 1,000 contacts and call it as many times as you can. And in some cases, there's still a place for that. But obviously over many years that's been defined, and we're utilizing new technology now to be a bit smarter about how we approach that. So a lot of the work that we're doing currently, and what I'll talk about in the presentation, is around smart data. So looking at data that speeds up the process and also means that some of the more cost sensitive areas of lead generation, such as telemarketing, it's quite a costly process. You get a better return on investment because we're contacting less companies, but we're being a lot more targeted in terms of who we approach. So I'll talk a bit more detail about data a little later, because it's so important in terms of getting the right contacts in your target database. We utilize LinkedIn, as I guess most of you would have used yourself, but what we're able to do is do that on quite an organized scale, so that in terms of the UK specifically, we put a package together for our clients where we're able to be very targeted in who we approach, get the right messaging out to them, and then generate other opportunities through that. But alongside that, we would help put together email campaigns, email marketing campaigns, and alongside that as well, also the telemarketing then comes into it in terms of being able to contact the right individuals with the right messaging. And we also do sales representation. So if you don't have a representative in the UK, but you need someone to go to meetings, to attend trade shows, conferences, events, then we're able to obviously do that as well on your behalf. Somewhat, dependent a little bit in terms of how technical a specific company's product or service is, but we're able to do the initial outreach. Where the product's slightly more complex, what we might do is facilitate the sales process, but bring in some sort of specialist, whether that's online or through something like Zoom or Teams, to be able to cover some of the more technical aspects of it. But that works well. It sort of gives confidence to the company we're reaching out to that the company does have some sort of UK presence. There is somebody on the ground who can deal with any issues that might arise or anything that might come up. So all those services listed there are sort of our sweet spot. Enough about us for now. I just want to run through 6 or 7 slides with just some key things that over the 15 years of being in this space of helping companies generate leads, some of the things that really stand out to us as things that are a best practice. And as I said earlier, a lot of what I'm going to talk about isn't rocket science, but it is just important to make sure that all these things are covered when specifically looking at the UK and any market, to be fair. Obviously, it's a well-used phrase, but preparation is the key. It's an obvious thing, but it's amazing how many companies we see who probably miss some of the things that are needed to prepare well. Things like, as an example, one of the key things that we talk to companies about is competitor analysis. So who are you up against in the UK? It may be organizations that you're not aware of because of your own market, they're just not there. But obviously they can make a massive difference to success or failure in the UK. So understanding how you compare against them, and also when you have an objection of someone maybe using a competitor product or service, being able to have a response that really talks about the positives of your product or service compared to maybe what they're using, or some of the common themes of issues that are going on with that type of business. So understanding the landscape. Preparation also comes into data, so understanding who you want to reach out to, who are your prospects, what do they look like, are they family-owned businesses, are they PLC businesses, are they of a certain size, are there a certain turnover, have they shown growth in the past 2 or 3 years? All these sort of things are really important. And also understanding who your own existing clients are in your own market. And what I mean by that is doing some analysis. The amount of times I've been in meetings with prospects and I say, talk me through your existing clients, and how and one of the key questions is how that client was won, and sometimes a lot of those are through existing contacts or an existing contract that then someone then left the company and moved to the next. These things are really useful to know about, because it obviously gives us a guide and a go-to play, if you like, for doing the similar in the UK. But also understanding some of the challenges. Did they come through in an introducer? What was that introducer like? What was sort of setup did they have? What commission structure? These sort of things. Learning from your own experiences is obviously key. So preparation is one of those key things that is really important. Data I've talked about already, and to be honest, is if not the most important thing, in terms of if we don't target the right companies, then whatever we do and however good we are, the success of finding customers is going to be really challenging. If we get the data piece right, and we're speaking to the right contacts, we have the right proposition, then it's going to be successful. Some of the sort of trends in the market that we're seeing is a lot of the data industry moving to what we call intent data. So this is data that of organizations who are being proactively searching or requiring the service or product that you have and you offer. Obviously, it's not foolproof, but it is effective, and we've got some great case studies of companies where we've worked with our data partner to generate a sort of smart list of prospects, and the amount of times where people have said, "Oh, actually, we've been looking for this. It's great that you've got in contact with us." It really does reduce the wasted time and efforts that can be there if you don't get that right. So spending quite a bit of time making sure you put the right data list together is crucial. And again, we can help with that with companies in terms of making sure we get the smart data correct. One of my favorite sort of sayings is taken from, for a little while when we first set up the business, we were members of an organization called BNI, which is quite a large US networking organization who have global outreach. And their sort of favorite saying is something called "givers gain," and it's something I've used in my business life, but also suggest companies look at doing that. And what I mean by that is sometimes by giving out, whether it's free information or giving out more information, being extremely helpful to prospects, obviously helps build your reputation here in the UK. But also it can also mean things like when you have a reseller or an introducer, sometimes giving a bit more commission, let's say, that's maybe palatable, especially when you're looking to first launch in the UK, can be a great investment. And what I mean by that is, if you give too low a commission to a introducer or to an agent, are they really focused and guided to sell on your behalf? And the answer is probably no, if it isn't financially worth it for them. However, if you give them a bit more and you're able to support them in those efforts, not just with money, but also with doing some of your own lead gen, let's say, what makes them tick is obviously that you're there as a really supportive partner, but also then you're rewarding them with ongoing commission. So a lot of times I see companies being very restrictive on terms of the length of time that maybe they would pay that commission. And so obviously from a partner point of view, they're thinking, well, actually, is it worth my time to promote this? And it may be that with a limited commission, you may well sign up a network of partners, but are they going to be proactive selling? And that's the difference. Some people like to say, "Oh, we have this partnership," but the person who they've signed up is never proactively selling. They're just waiting for someone to ask for, or they're trying to use your own products or services as a prop to sell their own products. Whereas if you make the deal financially beneficial, they'll be actually proactively selling on your behalf, which makes a massive difference to the number of leads, the number of opportunities that you get. One of the things by entering the UK and any new market is that probably in your own market, word of mouth is your main introducer to sales and the way of generating sales. When obviously in the UK, you haven't got people who have worked with you already. You haven't got a reputation as such, and you do need people to be proactively marketing on your behalf, whether that's yourselves or whether that's through this sort of partner network. So just having that little thing all the time about sometimes giving a little bit more can make a massive difference to the speed and to the success of any sales campaign alongside partners. People buy from people they trust, and I think this is again a very obvious thing to say. Everyone knows this, but it's amazing how some of the things that companies have in terms of their marketing collateral specifically, and how they come across to prospects doesn't literally lend itself to that. And what I mean by that is you can have the best salesperson in the world, you could have the best brochure, you can have the best trade show. You can have the best person who's making telephone calls. But if they then go onto your website and something doesn't quite tick, or it doesn't look right, or there's something expired, or you haven't updated your blog for 3 years, or your news is talking to them about something in 2007, they get nervous, and they want everything to. You're as strong as your weakest line, I guess, of how you come across. That's why it's so important to keep things up to date. It's why it's important to, if you're looking at the UK market, have content that's related to that. And it may be that a lot of companies like to have one site for the for the global market, which is understandable. But a lot of companies are going towards them sort of brochure sites specifically for the UK, where they can have UK content, they can talk about the UK market, so that when they're up against like a UK competition or UK competitor, they're not seen as an organisation who only works in one market. So a lot of cases we've seen companies trying to sell in the UK, where you then go on the website and it talks nothing about the UK, doesn't list UK address, doesn't list any reference to a UK client, and that can put people off. So just have a think about ways in which you can come across, so that the market trusts you in terms of being able to deliver any service or consultancy or product that you may be offering. So just something to consider. But again, one of the key things with any sale is around trust. People will only buy if they trust the service or product that they're looking to purchase. This slide is it's a bit more difficult to work out what it might mean, but it's around listening. And the key thing to any sale in the UK is, and around the world really, is listening to what the person's saying to you. We've seen time and time again, probably you're in a sales meeting with a prospect, and really as much as they want to talk about themselves and want to talk about their issues. So the key thing is not to start off with about you and your company. It's about understanding maybe a brief intro as to sort of the reason for the meeting, but really getting to say, well, what are your issues? What are you looking to achieve? How do you feel we can help you? Very open questions to let them speak and to get across what position the company's in, and then guide the presentation towards that. And again, an obvious thing to say, but again, I've been in a lot of cases where I've been in demos where you might say, I'm really focused on this, and then the whole presentation, it covers 1 minute of that, and the rest it's a standard presentation and doesn't really cover the key issues you're looking for. Very much making sure the person you're engaging with, who's obviously looking to purchase from you, you really understand their business, and that can also be not just listening during the call, but also doing your homework as well. So coming back to that research, understanding what that company's been talking about, at the last AGM. What are they talking about? Green? Are they talking about issues? Are they talking about improving their technology, as an example? All things that you can link into when you're presenting to them or speaking to them, if it's in form of telemarketing. So really important to listen to prospects and outreach there. Expert, and this comes back to trust really. Sometimes we've seen great examples of the best salespeople not being salespeople, and what I mean by that is having someone who can guide the conversation when you're doing a demo or speaking to somebody, but bringing in some of the technical team who may not be natural salespeople, but what they do is give trust and confidence to the prospect by having that technical knowledge and being able to go into the detail. Obviously, sometimes you don't want to go too far into that detail, and that's why you probably do need someone from a sales background to help guide that conversation. But again, I've seen some of the best sales being where you ask them afterwards, why did you go with us, and they said, well, such and such we were so confident in what they were saying they could do that we went with that. So almost trying to be an expert, and that can also be in terms of PR as well, getting your name out there as an expert in a certain field or industry. It makes a massive difference, but also comes back and linked very closely to the trust sales sort of thought process. And this one is the last slide on this front, is what I call the wow factor. So again, coming back to that theme of, probably the most challenging sales in any new market, or in this case, the UK market, will be your first. Because again, the one question people might ask is, well, what, who are you currently working with in the UK, this type of thing. And obviously it's very challenging if you don't have that. You can obviously talk about global clients that would be known in the UK, and that can be one route to that. But the wow factor is all around doing a deal. A part of your marketing budget really might be that in your first couple of deals in the UK, you do it so it's like an amazing deal for the prospect, but on the sort of on the one guide that they then provide you with a testimonial. Video case studies are really popular at the moment, something we'd recommend, and can be a great way of again coming back to that trust thing in terms of getting your message out there from people to basically believe that you're going to deliver for them. And so the wow factor is about doing something above and beyond, whether that's in a commercial form in terms of any sort of potential discount, but also just making sure that I guess everything that you do, you're better than the competitor who's also pitching maybe for that work. So looking at how you really come across to them, but also in terms, as I said, importantly, not being shy to be upfront about, actually, this is the situation we're in. We're new to the UK. We've had a fantastic track record in our own markets, but we're looking for a UK, a sort of initial sort of landed customer in the UK, and for that reason, we're able to offer this price as an example. Can be a way of getting those first. We would say, from a cricket analogy, runs on the board, but getting the first customers on board to be successful. Coming away from those slides as sort of general topics, going a bit more sort of detail into some of the other areas. A lot of these are linked into what we've talked about. This is a bit of like a process map that we use on behalf of our clients in terms of building the research, getting the right data, then using that data to drive awareness, and that's through marketing comms. Again, things like getting articles, using a PR partner to getting articles published can be a great way of building trust, pushing that out through the different networks that you have and driving awareness. And then the more direct approach, following that up, because obviously, the classic marketing analogy, 6 to 12 touch points before someone will even consider a product or service, and very much moving into that sort of area 4 and 5, where you're utilizing some of the more direct ways of contacting prospects. Is obviously there. So there's just a bit of a journey map that obviously you can have these slides afterwards as well, which hopefully might be useful. In terms of a bit more detail into setting the foundation, the strategy, in terms of business plan, also looking at market trends in the UK. One of the things I always do, and has worked for us internationally, is look at what's going on in any country that we're looking to work in. And what I mean by that is what's going on politically. Are there changes afoot? Is there something happening in the marketplace that then provides a real opportunity to your product or service? What is obviously going on also from a cultural point of view, so that when you are engaging with prospects from that market, you have some common themes of discussion that again helps build rapport with the prospect. So local information is really useful. I mentioned competitors already. In terms of data, I've covered this already really, but this is just in slightly more detail around the different types of potential customers and prospects, and how you might split them in terms of sectors, industries, revenue. Also the individual, like buying personas, is something that we do a lot on. We try and understand who we're reaching out to within an organization. As an example, if you're targeting one of the big banks, It may be that it isn't just and it won't be just one person you might want to engage with. It could actually run into the tens and even into the hundreds of prospects, depending on the different offering. But there's so many different business departments, so many different decision makers, so many different people signing off on budgets within that one large organization, that you really need to get quite a detailed list of the different people within those organizations, the job titles and the sort of job specs of these people, but also really getting to grips with what's in it for them, because someone's only going to purchase from you if there's something in it for them. And what I mean by that is that it's obviously got to help them either in the role, or make sure that they come across that they purchased this product to help the business and support it. But what are those motivations? So by understanding those, that enables us to then go back to making sure that the information and the copy that we're sending those people is the right messaging around that, because we're really trying to hone in on what are the motivations for that person to be what we call the ambassador in the business for you, the person who is giving you the bit of the inside knowledge, who helps you navigate through some of the procurement process, because they're motivated for you to work with them. One example of that would be we've worked quite a lot historically with like local authorities and councils, and by speaking to companies about, can you help? We're looking to bring this market product to the UK. We're looking to get some feedback from the market, and then the person then goes, this is what we need, this is how we work, and that person then feels part of the process. And a number of times I've seen it where that person then becomes the first purchaser of the product, because they have a vested interest in that to succeed in the UK. Again, this is around the sort of using different approaches, using the different ways of communicating with prospects, helps build up a higher lead quality. This is a little bit around the journey of that. I won't go into too much detail on that, but it just provides some of the key discussion points or written points when reaching out to prospects. These are the sort of things to consider. Data I've talked a lot about already, so I won't go again into too much detail, but really do look at intent data as a way of just being smart around making sure you're reaching out to the right prospects. Again, we've got two great partners that we work with who provide that type of data, and we've seen some fantastic results from it. So do really look at your strong really is the data that you have. So it's crucial. Obviously, in terms of different channels, not every process works for every single company. Obviously, it's really on a case-by-case basis, depending on who you're looking to reach out to. One of the great ways, in addition to some of these things that we've listed here, of reaching out to a specific person or a specific organization is keeping track of events and conferences where these people are maybe speaking at. The difference in maybe trying to reach someone through an email to then actually meeting them at a conference or event, having a very, in most cases, brief conversation with them, but then on the follow-up email being able to reference that and say, it was great to meet you at such and such event where you spoke and we had a brief conversation. They're much more likely the engagement percentage in a response will just go up several fold because of that one brief meeting with them at such an event. So these it's worth doing your research. What events that work for your target audience, whether that's in insurance, whether that's in banking, whether that's in another subsector within the industry. The more, what we find sometimes, the more niche the event, the more opportunity that might provide. So really doing a bit of a 12-month plan of what events are upcoming, when you might be in the UK, or you have someone, whether it's us or whether through another partner, who are able to visit that event. If you're not able to, can be a great way of engaging. And even if you can't visit the event, potentially registering for it, getting access to the app, every show now has an app, and be able to see who's actually visiting can be a great way of connecting. Because again, in any whether it's a follow-up LinkedIn, whether it's an email, by referencing that you were there at the show, or that you know they were there at the show, can be a great way of introducing yourself, even if it's to set up a Zoom or a Teams call with them. Excuse me. So social prospecting, obviously we're big fans of LinkedIn. Again, a quick win really. For a relatively low cost, 60 to 70 pounds, you can set up your own obviously LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Obviously it's a very popular product. Lots of you probably have it already. But if you haven't, really do look at it. It's a great way of tracking changes in your prospect list of people moving from company to company. It's a great way of connecting with people utilizing email, and it's in terms of the power it gives you in terms of outreach and the way you can build a data set from it. For the cost, it's great value for money. So something that would be a real go-to if you don't have it already. Email, obviously there's some statistics on there. A lot of it's obviously, as you would probably expect, but again, how you come across on email is important, but also how you send an email using the right technology to improve connection rates and open rates, obviously important, which relates to the content as well. But also where you maybe don't have thousands of prospects and maybe your prospect lists are in the tens and hundreds, almost being really personalized with that content is crucial. And what I mean by that, if you haven't got hundreds of thousands of prospects, and let's say you had 10 or 50 different potentials, by researching each company, each organization, understanding what they're talking about in industry media, what they're talking, what press releases they're doing, what they've mentioned at AGM or at EGM, and then referencing that within the content really does stand you out from the crowd who are maybe just sending out blank emails that people aren't going to read. So almost like a personalized Outlook email, which you can still utilize some form of tracking within that, can be a great way of getting attention, rather than just standard HTML emails that everyone gets all the time and delete before they've actually even attempted to read it. So sometimes it's about having the right communication at the right time with a prospect. Human approach, telemarketing, again, having that one-to-one conversation can be a great way of gaining feedback from the market. But also understanding gaining more information from the prospect, from the contact, as to what the company is looking to do, and that can help then gear the sales message going forward to that organization. As I said, 15 years ago we were doing everything was telemarketing. Now it's around 30% of what we do, but an important 30%. A lot of the closing does come from the ability to have a conversation with someone, with a prospect, get your point across, and then close to build a meeting or a next step with the prospect. So having people who are able to have open conversations is so important, and we shy away as an organization ourselves from standard sales scripts. They can be a little off-putting for prospects. Very much the UK culture is people don't want to be sold to. They want to have a discussion. People listen to them and then guide them onto to maybe this is what we could offer, rather than the hard sell of you've got to make a purchasing decision in the next 24 hours, which we've seen in other markets who come to the UK. It doesn't work in most cases, unless you're looking more at consumer side of things here in the UK. Just some things to consider in terms of marketing collateral. As I mentioned earlier, video content is really popular at the moment, especially if you have a case study. As much as you can talk about your own company and how great it is, actually an existing customer who talks about what their issue was, how it was solved, and what a great partner you are, can be a really powerful message to somebody, and again, from that trust aspect, especially if it's from a company that they know of or have heard of, it really does resonate with them. I mentioned about PR, also case studies, again, almost what we would call the marketing story is so important. As much as you can say individually what you could do for a business, actually having specific cases is important, and making sure everything that you have in that sort of cabinet of things that you can utilize from a marketing perspective, make sure it all is aligned and looks professional and comes across in the right way. Some quick wins. Again, some of those things I've covered already. Trade associations can be a great way of speeding up the process of getting to know companies and organisations in the UK. Obviously, you can become a member of your industry trade association, but actually, who are your clients? Again, there's so many trade associations in the UK that there'll be one probably for a very specific niche area that you would maybe looking at, and there may be less competition there. So again, researching all the different connected organisations, and then making a choice of where maybe you might join. The cost of joining is not extortionate in our experience in most cases. But they can be a great partner in terms of navigating and giving you that industry knowledge here in the UK. So something to think about that's important. Just some final sort of things to think about. I mean, in terms of, obviously we've talked about data a lot, but it's there for the reason that it is so important. Looking at selection, your sales process, your sales route in the UK is really important. Do you look to go through partners? Do you look to sell direct? Do you potentially have some own presence here eventually in the UK, and networking I've already mentioned. Just some last things to finish on. A couple of example clients that we've worked with in this space. So Humanable, an Australian company, they have some video technology that works specifically for financial service organizations. We did a campaign, a project for them, and were successful in getting them initial meetings with some really high profile organizations. That's worked out well. We work with an organisation, Global Victoria, so a government organisation in Australia. We help bring over a number of companies each year, and help them in their first sort of outreach to the UK. And then a lot of those organisations come from a fintech background, so we understand the space on a daily basis. We are contacting the industry, whether that's into insurance, whether that's into banking, whether that's into sort of SME businesses, if that particular product or service is geared towards that. Because we have the sort of outreach and the market that we have, we're contacting companies on a daily basis, getting really up to date feedback as to what's working, what's resonating from a marketing perspective, from a messaging perspective, that we'd be confident that we'd be able to deliver and help companies to get that traction here in the UK. And because of you're part of this particular cohort, happy to have an individual sort of one-to-one meeting with any of you guys, just to talk through any specific issues you may have, or any guidance you may have, or any tips that you feel you would like for the market, but also to put maybe we have a specific offering with some free data and so forth that we can offer as part of being part of this cohort. So happy to, I think my contact details are on the last slide. There they are. I think you'll get a copy of the presentation, and Tony can introduce you to us if needs be. But happy to have an individual conversation, because again, each case I understand is specific, and there may be a specific question you'd rather speak directly to us, and happy to engage in that if it can be helpful. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight to some of the things that we see in the market, some other things to look out for, But again, happy to answer any questions that may be there, Tony.
Thanks, James. That was excellent. Thank you for that. Does anyone have any? I haven't seen any hands fly up. Anyone got any questions to kick us off? I think just a comment really before we dive into questions. I think the things that definitely resonate with me with what James was saying were about culture and understanding the market in which you're selling into and the practices to do such. Couple of things in particular. So you were mentioning that the best people in sales often are not the salespeople because it's about developing that trust and awareness of and understanding of the clients that you're talking to. And I suppose we talked about this before, James, to me, the difference between market like the US and the UK is that it's often not responsive to the hard sell, more responsive to the developing that core relationship and them getting to understand more about you and the company. I think that is key. We do have a question there from Sandeep. So Sandeep, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Hi, James. James, couple of questions from me. Number one, have you had experience with, say, large, complex enterprise sales? So $500,000, $1 million pound solutions, say core banking, digital banking, and what has been your experience in those kind of sales versus, say, a point solution like a regulatory reporting or a subscription-based solution in terms of the difference in approaches?
Yeah, no, really good question. Yeah, and yes, correct. We've a lot of cases where we've helped companies secure those type of contracts, and the biggest difference we see between let's say the SaaS sale monthly fee and the sort of high value capex expense is around the sort of whole sales journey, and really also understanding when, in some cases those type of projects would go out to tender, but also understanding when they're likely to come out, building those relationships before those tenders do come on the market, also understanding and really building a network within that organization, because that sort of size of project isn't going to be one decision maker. It's going to be a number of different prospects. So that's where getting to work on those, let's say, buying personas, the different people, understanding who is the best person to help guide you through that is key. But also then potentially looking at some of those potential consultancy partners as well that maybe have those existing relationships within those large organizations, because obviously those type of relationships do take time to form, and if organizations have those already, yes, you're going to lose a little bit on the share of revenue from that, but they already have that trust within those businesses and are able to maybe speed up the process. So I think that's where partners do come into those type of sales, and having the network of organizations that are on a day-to-day basis dealing with those companies is crucial.
Yeah, and related to that, James, is so we're looking at the partner route because obviously the banks would have those relationships with partners. So does your company facilitate, say, entities like us forming the right partnerships with, say, system integrators or other banking solution providers who could...
Exactly. So it's the process to find a customer or a partner is exactly the same. I mean, it's relatively easy to find a partner. It's difficult to find a good one. And what I mean by that is you have to be quite wary of meeting somebody and they're promising the world and then signing some sort of partnership agreement with you, but they're not actually proactively selling for you. I mentioned it slightly in the presentation, and so really finding someone who is complementary, isn't competing, but is someone who's going to recommend, who's going to be actually proactively working with you is crucial. And so what we do is a similar process. We build an initial long list of partners who fit the criteria of what we set. We then sign that off with our clients. We then do the initial approach to those organizations, talk to them about the opportunity that might be there, and set up and sort of facilitate meetings with those organizations. And that's something that is one of our core offerings. So yes, very much it's something we're able to do.
Okay, I'll set up a separate one-on-one with you because I've got a series of questions, but given the time,
Yes.
I'll set up a separate session with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sadiq.
Yeah, we can facilitate that. Any other questions while we have James?
James, can I ask? Obviously, you're focused on B2B, and Tony mentioned that at the beginning. Like, to what extent can you help companies like ours that we're focused more on B2C?
So where we've done, obviously our sort of skill set or process isn't geared to having those direct discussions with consumers, but what we're able to do is find the channels where those might be, and that's such as an example. For instance, a lot of the large sort of telcos, as an example, have platforms, partnership agreements that enable people to engage with a whole series of individuals. We've also worked with like membership bodies, putting together deals with them so that they push it to their network. Again, obviously it's on a case-by-case basis depending on the specific offering, but we're trying to find those related organizations that almost become a channel partner, and that's where that process is exactly the same. It's about understanding who those partners might be, what they look like, but that's where we add value in that specific case. It's finding a network of people who are sort of highly motivated to outreach to their memberships or to their audience.
Okay, great. I think if it's okay, we'll reach out for a one-to-one and
That'd be
go
great.
through offline. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll share. James has put his contact details up, but I'll share that all in the chat for you all. Hassan's got a question. Over to Hassan.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, James, for the presentation. I have a question just complementing Sandeep's question, probably related to the networking and relations. So we have a network, we have leads for banking clients, let's say, but they have a definite list of vendors for a certain period of time, let's say 1 year. What would be a perfect way to just communicate? How to create this marketing plan? I mean, we need to have some leads, that's for sure, and maybe just access this vendor list and enter the list after some while. So how should be the roadmap for this marketing plan?
So I guess obviously with those vendors, the first thing is access to that list and understanding who they are, and also how they work and engage with partners, and what is the best route. One of the challenges with these types of organizations in their very own right, they're very large, and have multiple staff who cover very specific areas of the business, and others who are more around working with partners and integrators, and so by navigating, the first thing we would do is really get to grips with putting a comprehensive list of who are all the players in that space, who are the individuals then within those businesses, how do we build and engage relationships with them. You've got to do a bit of background stuff as well in terms of understanding the sort of typical model, how those organizations might work in this specific case. Are they looking to sell their consultancy services and then there's not so much commission, or are they looking to take a large commission? One of the best cases we worked with was a Danish company who actually had some time and attendance software, and they were working with Sage, who are one of the large accounting software providers here in the UK, and they were putting them in touch with all their large enterprise clients because they had a really strong offering that complemented what Sage were doing and fed into Sage. So that was really successful for them, but they had to pay 50, everything that they did. Sage took a very large chunk of the sales value, but because they were such good leads and such large volume, that was a business decision that it was worth doing that. So again, it's almost on a case-by-case basis, depending on each organization. Different integrators, different partners might work in different ways, and what really motivates them. We've had discussions with different ones, and you'd be quite surprised the differences between one to the next in terms of some are very aggressive on commissions that may be paid, others are really just wanting it to be a part of their suite, and complementary. I come back to the point as well, though, it's not just a case of signing them up, it's a case of building those relationships, not necessarily socializing with them, but getting to know the people who are then going to be the ones who push you forward. And I think sometimes by building those relationships, that will work in the long term, because if you just rely on a signed contract with a partner, it's you have to be pushing all the time to make sure that you're seen above others who are there with them.
James, am I correct to assume that the strategy should be to be a sub vendor for a vendor for the bank, let's say, then get the relevant contacts within their hub?
I think it's a combination. So again, we've seen it work where by approaching an organization direct, they've said, "Oh, we love it. We love your offering, but we just, in terms of procurement, we would ask you to go to such and such to work with them to put it together." And then obviously it's such a warm lead by you then go to them and say, "Oh, we've been speaking to such and such in Lloyd's or wherever, and they've said that we should engage with you to put something together." Obviously, it's a bit of an open goal then. So I think it's a combination. You have to build awareness within the end market as well. It just be maybe where it's delivered from is slightly different. And obviously, as you then build those relationships with those contacts, you maybe get to a size where you could actually deliver direct yourselves. Again, it's on a case-by-case basis, but it's a bit of a combination. And like I said, I've seen some of the best wins being where the leads come from a direct contact that's then been fed maybe through a different delivery arm, but in terms of it's come direct, and because of that it makes a big difference. It's the same thing as if you manage to have a conversation with a very let's say top executive within a business, and they like what they see, they'll then pass it down the business. Again, it's a bit of an open goal because it's come from the very top that you should look at this, and there's an expectation that that they're going to purchase. So it's that sort of thinking, really. It's putting a plan together based on the specific scenario and the specific case.
One final note then, is your company working on banking industry so that we might maybe work for the leads together afterwards?
Yes, so we've got a number of examples. You're on a daily basis. We're contacting the industry. We understand some of the challenges of getting hold of key decision makers, but also we understand some of the ways in which we might do that. And again, coming back to data, we can access direct contact details, which is really important, because going, especially in the financial services industry, trying to go through a switchboard, you'll tear your hair out in terms of how long you'll wait and then getting disconnected, and it just doesn't work in that industry. So having direct contact is crucial. And so again, the data provider that we work with, not in all cases, but in a percentage, are able to give us some mobiles and that type of stuff, which enables us to speed it up.
Many thanks for your answers.
Thanks.
Thanks, Hassan, for that. Anyone else with questions before we start to wrap up? Okay, I mean, I think one question for me, James, before we finish is, what is there an optimal state or stage the company should be at before you start working with them? You mentioned preparation is key to all of this, and you also mentioned, which is one of my bugbears with some of the companies that attempt to do business in the UK, where they don't have that virtual presence on their website or on social media or any marketing materials about their UK presences, because companies and clients love to have that, don't they? So is there a time period at which they should be engaging with you and working with you? What kind of preparation should they be doing?
Yeah, I mean, we with every client that we initially engage with, we go through what we call a PID process. So and what that PID is, it's a project initiation document that outlines what are we looking to achieve from the project, but what do we need to have to achieve that success. And it goes all the way down to the basics of who we're looking to reach out to and what type of organizations, but also covering some of that research that might need to be done, or understanding of the marketplace, and always putting a checklist together of what you might need to be market ready. And that's just some of the basic stuff that, again, by understanding what your competitors are doing, can be useful. I break it down into this. So if you have something that's totally unique, it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. If that is needed, then someone will purchase it. But if you're offering something that others in the market are already offering, but then they have everything they do is geared towards the particular market, you really need to up your game to be at least come across that you have that similar sort of profile. So again, it's a little bit horses for courses, as I'd say. Depending on the situation, depending on your proposition, and where your competition might be or not be in the marketplace would determine, I guess, a little bit as to how much work you need to do before you might outreach. If you've got something totally unique that's needed here and now, then you want to be getting out there now. If something is sort of already being offered in the UK, you just need to do that little bit of prep work to make sure that you're playing on a fair battleground, really.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, James. Excellent.
Cool. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, everyone. I've shared James's contact details already. I'll share a copy of James's presentation this morning to you all. And so you can get in touch with James direct, or if you need to come through me, no problem. We can do that. The next time I'll see you, unless I speak to any of you individually, will be on the company formation and tax webinar, which will take place on Wednesday 24th, which will be slightly later in the day, be 9 a.m. UK time. So please make sure you sign up for that if that's of interest to you. So without further ado, I'll sign off. Say thank you for James. Thanks very much. Thank you all for coming. James is, I should mention as well, I think James mentioned it at the beginning, he's got the Queen's Award for Excellence. Which is not just a ceremonial process or something you can actually get through people you know. It's something you get through actually doing excellent work, and very few companies have that. I suppose now it's the King's Award for Excellence.
It is the King's Award, so we need to reapply for the new award. But
you need to go back to the palace and have
the certificate behind me now. That's the certificate with her signature, with the Queen's signature on. So very proud of that. Thank you.
Congratulations for that. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, James.
Bye.